Okay, so I keep talking about investing long term. Don't touch your investments, keep them going. Don't make these mistakes of pulling things out because you have fear. But when is it actually a good time to withdraw your money from your investments? This is what I wanted to cover in this video because I feel like, there's so much talk around like, you know, don't touch it, don't do this, and, when to do that. And really, it's like, well, how do we know when to actually withdraw the money? This may be a very personal decision, for you. I know for me, I had in my mind that, I wanted to hit a goal and have my investment basically paying for me to live, off of that money. And so once I hit that goal, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to just withdraw, this amount, and then the rest I need to make up for in some way if I want my lifestyle, to be a certain way. So that's why I say it may be a very personal decision for you around, how much money you do need to withdraw. And we're going to go over that in another video where we talk about your freedom number. Okay, but in this video, I wanted to give you some examples of times where it may be a good idea to withdraw some of your money from your investments. And of course, you would always want to, discuss that with your tax professional so that you know the implications. If you do withdraw money, always ask about it first before you make that decision, because I've known a lot of people, even in retirement years, where they're like, oh, I want to go on a big trip, and they take out a huge chunk of money, and then they forget that that money gets taxed, if it's in a specific type of account, right? So it really does depend on what the way that you've set things up and what your plans are. Now, here's some good reasons maybe, to think about, for yourself. It gives you it plants some seeds, gives you some ideas. So one good reason would be like if you were going to start a business or if you were going to build a business. So for me, I know that there were times with my business where I was making consistent income with it, and then I would hit a plateau. And I was like thinking to myself, what do I need to do, to grow my business and to build it? I need to invest in some assets and, buy some things for my business so that I can, instead of renting them, I can own them and I'll make more money that way on the long term. So when you do something like this, you want to run through it in your mind, maybe write down some notes on some paper about your steps and really kind of project for yourself, like plan for yourself and really analyze, you know, is this risk worth taking? Is it going to have a return on my investment? If I take this money out of my account, and let's say you do have to pay taxes, what does that amount look like? And then if I take that money and put it in towards building my business, potentially could that grow my business and make not only my business a better asset at some point that I could sell? Does it give me the opportunity for my business to make more money? And so that would definitely be a great time, to withdraw money from your investment. Another time might be when you want to diversify into some other types of assets. And so things like real estate, some people get into jewelry or metals or art. These are all different types of things that we consider assets. And it's always a good thing to be more diversified. Of course, I would say to you, do your education, really look into it and see if that particular asset is worth having? Like, is it something that is going to have a return, at some point for you? What is the projected, let's say, increase, over time, for that asset? So that would be another good time. The third one might be if you were to invest in real estate, and you could get into rental income that way. You may want to get into your own personal place that would basically build up, interest over time for you, or like you would actually end up building up a little nest egg basically by owning your own home and acquiring, over time, you're basically building up the principal. So that could be something that would definitely ensure that you are going to have a gain, over time. Real estate tends to go up over time, long term. Again, there's no guarantee, but it's another great, way to diversify and to have a plan, like withdraw your money to do that someday. So that could be a goal, for you. Another one would be like, let's say another good time to withdraw money, of course, is if you've reached retirement or you've hit your financial independence day. You've met your goal, and now you're ready. You've basically created this plan for yourself and you have a strategy. And we're going to go over that in another video where we talk about your freedom number. And maybe you're following this 4% rule. That's something that a lot of people use as their guide, to only take out 4%. And so the rest of the money is able to continue to compound over time. So that would be, again, another great time to withdraw. I think that's when most people probably do. All right. And the next one is like an emergency situation. Now, I would say to you to do your best to try to build up an emergency account for yourself, that would cover, let's say, a couple of months worth of expenses for yourself so that you don't have to draw this money out, so that it is in a separate kind of container for yourself. But you do have this option at any time, if say something does happen and you don't have an emergency account, you can use it, for an emergency situation. I just don't like you thinking that that money is there, for emergencies all of the time, because people tend to get into fear when an emergency arises and they automatically just go right into, okay, I got to draw money, out of my account. So really think about it strategically. If you can, think about it this way. I'm going to replenish those funds, right after, the emergency. So if you can do it that way, try your best to. All right. So some of the another few things that I wanted to go over was really when to avoid, withdrawing, from your investments. And some of these are ones that I haven't covered. And one of those big ones is for short-term wants and needs. If it's something like all of a sudden you're going nuts and you're like, I need a vacation, okay? Or I want to buy this like purse, this luxury thing. Um, you know, please consider that decision first, before you go and withdraw from your investment. Maybe think of it more like this. How can I create a little extra income or ask for a raise at work and put that money aside into a container, an account that is specifically for vacations or, for personal expenses, little things that I'd love to like treat myself. Those things that you desire, those things that you're hoping and wanting for. And I'm not saying do not ever buy them for yourself, like nice shoes, a purse, a new wardrobe every once in a while, going out to eat, at a fancy restaurant. I'm not saying don't ever do those things, but I'm definitely saying make sure that they work into your expenses. And so if it's something you want, then create the funds for that. Like create a little set aside an amount for yourself so that you can just easily go on a vacation or you can buy that purse, for yourself as a reward, let's say. Now, of course, you can withdraw the funds, but again, it's going to go against your plan and it's going to knock your goal down. So that's what I want you to consider, before you make that decision. Another time to avoid withdrawing would be during market downturns. This is a time so often that people let their fears take over and they make the mistake of selling during that time. And once you do that, you lock in the loss. Okay. So remember, you're locking in the price. When you make that decision to sell, you're locking in the price. More often than not, the market rebounds, it recovers. So you've got to give it some time. Okay. Watch the long-term charts, and you'll see that. Another time to avoid withdrawing is if you don't have a plan at all. Like if you're a person who's living just impulsively, then really sit down for yourself and start a Google Doc for yourself and just start creating your investment plan. Make it really clear, like what this looks like for you, right? To start shifting and changing if you want to, even if you don't have those that mindset yet or those behaviors yet, this course we're kind of outlining what that looks like. So take those tidbits of information, the things that stood out to you that maybe you desire that you want to shift into and make them a part of your plan. Make some of those things your goal, right, for the year so that you're working towards that. And then again, revisit the course. Once you've accomplished that, revisit it, listen again for those little things that you can start adding in and make that a part of your like long-term plan and your strategy. All right. So that was it. I just wanted to go over some of these things that we definitely want to like be careful of and, also know when it is a good time to actually withdraw your money for your from your investments. There are good times to do that. I'm sure there are plenty more than what I've listed here. And so, but do you see? That's what I want you to see is like getting into this mindset of, can I look at my numbers? Does this actually make sense? Talk to people who are financially savvy and go over it with them and ask them. They'll give you the truth. Some people who are financially savvy will give you the truth right away, um, because they're very transparent usually about money. That's what I find. People who are good with money are usually very transparent about it. They love talking about it. They love strategizing, with others. So don't be scared to do that, and they'll give you the truth right away. And sometimes that's what you need, a little kick in the butt to make sure that you're staying on track. All right. So thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.